Hello, good evening. Welcome to Football Heritage TV. I am Savva, and for some reason, I've managed to get 3 Gooners on the show at once. I sincerely apologise to everybody else that hates Arsenal.
We don't hide, mate. We don't hide.
No, but you do like bottles, so we'll get into that in really shortly.
You're right. I do like bottles.
I prefer a can. But,
let's introduce some guests. Let's introduce Dave Asprey back as always, the craziest Nottingham Forest fan in the world. How are you, my man?
Suitably crazy. Slightly disappointed we didn't get anything against the blandest team in the blandest stadium on earth on Saturday. But looking forward to a bit of a colossal tussle with these 3 people below me on Saturday tea time.
It's Arsenal. They've bottled it. Don't worry about it. You've got 3 points. You've got 3 points. Staffy, Man United, slowly but surely losing grip on that Champions League place to Liverpool. I see.
Can't say that after we just got a win.
I'm just saying. I've got to see something. Yeah, I make myself feel better about Spurs by poking fun at other clubs that are much better than Spurs. You see, that's how we do it.
Trying to get me rattled early on. I see that.
No. Devo, how are you after just admitting you've decided to come out of retirement, start playing football again at the age of 40?
39. I'm 39. Got a few months left in me yet. I'm all right now. Ask me after I play in a couple of weeks. It'll be a different answer.
Nice. And Gav Mac, there you are. How are you?
I'm good. I'm upset that there's no darts tonight, but got me a little practice on in the board behind me. So ready to chat shit about football.
We're good. I'm glad. Thank you for not having darts. And Fran or goalarzo.com, how are you? First time on?
Yeah, no, first time on, but thank you so much. I've been watching you back since the days of Savva Talk Spurs. And really that was good. But I like this new angle, more inclusive.
You should have seen me back in the days of what was it? God, was it Spursy? A Spursy podcast. Do you remember those days, Gav and Dev?
Yeah, man. You come on the old 2 Up Top pod with that, didn't you? During lockdown.
Oh,
yeah.
It's through you. Effectively, it's through you how I met Devo.
You're welcome. So, and now you two are like,
sorry.
You're in. Let's get started. Let's get started with something that doesn't involve any of our clubs at the moment. Everyone see Inter Milan versus AC Milan tonight.
Luton Sunderland.
Look, Dave, you're a proper football fan.
That is the most Dave thing that I probably.
It's a Gav Mac thing as well.
That was a punk thing to do. What I mean? Rather than corporate Inter Milan.
What I mean? I was at band rehearsal and I bought my laptop along and just had that on the side and a couple of my
or the Milan game.
No, Milan. I was hoping for a Milan comeback, just spice things up a little bit, but it was plain sailing for Inter really in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah. I know it's not football related, but Fran, I'm intrigued about this band.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's just my local mates from the village. We live in the middle of nowhere, and we just we do gigs around the place and stuff. I sing. My sister plays bass. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, we're called Stranded in Bermuda.
We all need tickets. We all need tickets to. Where is this village before I commit to coming to watch it? Where's the village?
Just Hampshire. So.
Just Hampshire.
Okay. Oh, just Hampshire.
Yeah. Well, we don't want you to give out your address.
Staffy, Hampshire. It's a quiet
bit smaller than New Hampshire.
Place in London. Yeah. In England, sorry, not in London. Okay, so Inter Milan, AC Milan. Just quickly, does anyone give Inter Milan any hope? I know we don't know who they're playing, but does it matter? Do we give them any hope against Madrid or City?
Yes.
They've had 8 clean sheets. I was listening to in the radio in the car. This is their 8th clean sheet in the Champions League.
5 in their last 7.
7. Okay.
I said 5 in their last 7. I'm not saying I'm saying 5 in the last 7.
And there'll be no pressure on them.
Yeah. Oh,
and it's a cup final.
Have we got a panel here that's leaning more towards Inter Milan? Then I mean,
Savva, what did we see? What did we see earlier a couple of years ago between Chelsea and Man City? Did anybody in their right mind, other than Chelsea fans, even Chelsea fans, did they even give themselves a chance? They didn't before the game. They would have. Everyone, the world assumed it. And if we are going to put our nostalgic heads on, Champions League final 1994, AC versus Barcelona. Did anybody give AC a chance? Despite how good that AC team were, all the press in Spain were like, "Oh, well, how many? It's not if we're going to win. How many goals are we going to win by?" And Milan won that game 4-0. So.
Yeah, and all the pressure will be on City or Madrid, whoever comes through that side. Yeah. So Inter could play the underdogs and upset a lot of people. So I wouldn't write them off.
Okay, all right.
I'm writing them off, I think.
I was gonna ask, when we're saying the stuff that we're saying right now, are we talking about the possibility of it being City in the final or Madrid? Because I have two different takes.
I think they get battered by either of those two clubs, if I'm honest.
I think if they have a chance, it's only against Madrid. I don't think they have a chance.
On the opposite way. On the opposite way.
I can tell you why real quick. Just the way that City plays their football, I just don't see a way that Inter has a chance. Madrid, however, they don't really have one style of play. They don't have a dominant style of play. They win, but there's 5 people here on the panel with me. If I were to ask you, describe how does Madrid play football, you really wouldn't have one answer. If I asked you about City, you probably could wrap it up in a quick sentence or two. And for that reason, I think on the day of, Inter can win if it's Madrid. If it's City, it's just I don't see a chance.
Staffy, I'm the other way. If it's City, I just see Pep doing some weird jiggery pokery. He's made these mistakes before, so this time he's not going to make that mistake, which then tells me it'll be a little bit more predictable for Inter to comprehend. Now, Real Madrid in the top tier of European football, they lost a final, lost one maybe. When it gets to a final, they know what to do. They know how to get the job done. So I would feel more confident of a Real Madrid victory over Inter than I would.
Let me ask you, Gav. Though, let me ask you though, when we use the word predictable with Man City. Yeah, we know how Man City are going to play, but that predictability seems to be battering almost everybody they're playing.
Yeah. I agree.
It's one thing being predictable, and it's another thing. Surely, like I watched Inter tonight, and I watched them in the first leg. And listen, don't get me wrong; they're really well drilled, very organised. Not the greatest to watch on the eye, I don't think, but you know that you don't need to be. I just think City's players will pull them all over the place. I don't think they'll see the ball.
For me, it's a predictability with the ability to combat it. We all know what they're going to do, but how do you combat it? And I feel like in the Premier League, it's a lot more difficult to comprehend than it is for Inter. Personally, I feel like Inter, they've got the talent as well as the structure to try and cause some form of damage, and that's why I feel like this final is going to be. It's going to be tight, regardless of who it is who they play. It's not going to be a foregone conclusion. No way.
So let me ask you then. So go on, Fran. Go on.
Sorry, we can't rule out if Pep does get to the final, though. It's not looking like it. He's got his head screwed on a bit more. That he'll have we can't rule out him having a galaxy brain moment and just putting Haaland at left back or something.
he did it. He did it that final 2 years ago. I thought he completely overthought it. He was almost too clever for his own good.
Talking about
and so as Gav says, you know, Pep sort of played games. I mean, I haven't got BT, so I've seen highlights of these semi-finals, right? But it seemed to me in the game at the Bernabeu, it was Ancelotti who was doing the cleverest. There were times when Modric was at left back. Cruz was like handing out drinks at dinner time or whatever. You know, all this weird stuff was going on. You know, Vinicius was like collecting stamps. I don't know. It was all this weird stuff, and City just stuck to what they're doing. And I just think that Pep will probably take some advice and think, you know what, Pep, 2 years ago, mate, you were a bit fiddly noodly with it. Leave it.
Do you think he will be now, though, Dave? I feel like he's got that. Right now, when I watch City, they're 24 games. Is it 23, 24 games unbeaten? I'm not going to tell you the last team to beat them, you know, because it's our trophy this year. But, you know, 23, 24 games unbeaten. And I think the only if I'm not wrong, I think there's been 2 draws in that 24, and
Yeah,
I think
I think
think one was Nottingham Forest, and
You
the
made
other
us
one,
believe that day.
that one was Real.
Gav, I can only put. Do you know what? That day we scored a goal that has been criminally underrated. We scored a City goal against City. All 11 of ours had a touch. There were 19 passes from Kayla Navas to Chris Wood tapping in, right? And it's almost like that. And Pep got booked at our place. And it's almost like he sat down after that and said, right, it doesn't happen again. And they've gone on this run. And you talk about, you lads talk about predictability. And I think that is absolutely what we're seeing with City. But it's a predictability that sort of puts forward the idea, if it ain't broke, it don't need fixing. Do you know what I mean?
That's why I don't think he'll do it again, right? I genuinely think at the moment he literally just has to go pick the team. They know the formation now. I can't see him doing anything silly in the final. But I want to talk about tomorrow night's game. Let me start with you, Fran. Madrid City 1-0 in the first leg. I thought City were the dominant force, but Madrid have that 5 or 10 minutes where they did enough to get a goal. Do you see more of that, or do you think City are going to blow them away at the Etihad?
I really, really don't want City to blow them away. Obviously, I'm not happy with them. It's just whether Real Madrid can produce that kind of clutch performance and goal and that type of thing that we see so often and is so incredible in the Champions League. Or, that would be my ideal, but I think it's just going to be predictable, mechanic City, just kind of get the job done. If I had to put money on it, I'd say City are going to go through, but my heart wants Madrid to pull a madness. Yeah, what about you guys?
Is this because I think they're going to win the league? Is this what this is? I just don't particularly like them, and that's probably due to recent events. Yeah.
I wonder why.
I've got it on the head there.
I wonder why.
Staffy, as a Man United fan, are Man City going to do this tomorrow and try and remove the emotion of the fact that you were the last club to have done a treble? Do you think City are going to do this tomorrow?
Logically, yes. I'm just trying to find reasons why it won't happen. Right. And I'll tell you something. If there's one team on a big European night that could go against the odds, and no matter what the circumstances and the pressure going against them, being away from home, that could pull off a result, I most likely would want to choose the team that has the majority of the players who have 5 Champions Leagues under their names, a manager like Carlo Ancelotti with 2-3 Champions Leagues under his name. Sorry, 3 Champions Leagues. 4 actually. Yeah.
4.
Yeah. Anyways, you get my point.
Yeah.
If anyone could do it, it's probably them. Unfortunately, I just learned this stat today that Madrid has never qualified after not beating the opposition in the first leg at home. So they've never done that. If they don't win the first game at home, they don't qualify. So it's not looking good. But my heart is telling me 2-1 Madrid.
Your heart's telling you 2-1 Madrid.
My brain is shut off today, so my brain is not.
Look at this.
I think it's interesting. If Madrid get an early goal, I think it'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
Madrid take the lead, but for me personally, I'm going to go against the grain. I would like to see Man City do the treble. If we're not going to win the league, I would like to see Man City. I think Pep deserves it.
What's wrong with you?
I'm with you.
I think Pep deserves it. I think Pep, for everything that he's done for football, people always hold it against him. You can't do it without Messi. You can't do it without Messi. I would like to see him win the Champions League with Man City. I think they as a club deserve it. They do a lot in Manchester for Manchester. A lot of people slag them off why they spend all this money, but they do a lot. And everyone says, how can you compete with all this money? But look at the money that they bring in. Look at the players they bring through the academy. When they go and sign players, they don't sign stars. They sign good players and make them great. So I can't really complain about the way Man City go about their business. I know they've got all of these financial doping charges that are still to be brought to them. But
Dev, it's interesting, right? I was, you all know I work with Henry Wright, so literally all day. It's Henry is the king of just, I'll be working away doing something and he'll go, who's better, and he'll just pick 2 players that have got one from the 1980s, one's playing now. He's going, right, name me 3 players who have played for 2 teams in Spain in the same year. You're like, oh my god, I don't know. Right?
Does he get out much?
Yeah, he comes to work and then he streams. So he comes to work and he streams. Actually, we've got a company work do on Thursday night, and the thing is, I know what will happen. Me and Henry will turn up to the pub, and literally anybody he can find, he'll be like, "Yeah, who do you support? Chelsea. Your team shit." Right. He just goes straight in.
He's just the white Tottenham version of me. That's what he is.
Anyway, what I was saying, Devo, is Henry showed me today a table that was produced today, and it actually showed of net spend from the last 10 years, all the Premier League clubs. And do you know where Man City are in terms of net spend?
Aren't they like 5th or 4th or 5th? Like they're much lower down than people think.
Yeah.
Most people think they're first, right? Most people think they're first, but they're actually 3rd, and nowhere near Man U and Chelsea, and only 30 million above Arsenal.
Yeah.
Only 30 million above Arsenal.
We don't sell well. We don't sell well. We wait until
we cannot sell.
Yeah, we're really good at making. It's like, oh, you got a year left of your contract. Oh, just stay with us for 1 more year, and we'll let you go at the end of the season. Go on.
Don't talk to me about that. We're about to give Eric Dyer another 3-year contract. He's been here 10 years. Go on, Fran.
It's I kind of see it as, I just thought this. So Arsenal are like, it's about the way you spend it, isn't it? We're like going in and out of Primark, maybe TK Maxx, just getting lots of things that don't cost very much. Whereas Man City, they kind of save up for like the odd like Armani t-shirt that's gonna be amazing, last quite a long time. It's like a good value, that kind of quality purchase.
This is a strong metaphor, Fran. It's going really well.
Yeah.
Can I just say that it's at the start of the season, it seemed like Forest had shopped in the middle aisle at Lidl.
Hey, don't diss the middle of Lidl.
You were doing supermarket sweep. Not in the Forest, wasn't it? It was like you have got 2 months in the summer window. Go, and you were just like you available.
Great big trolley, Savva.
You know what?
Yeah.
They had a bunch of gift cards. They had a bunch of gift cards that they got on their birthday, Christmas, every holiday. And Dave just sat there. Look, I have 10 of them. Let's go spend them before they expire.
Staffy, they signed about 5 right backs. Do you know what I mean? It was like
a whole new squad.
One is not even playing the game.
The thing is, City's kids, they go for relatively decent money. Look at the players that have gone to Southampton. I know that Southampton have gone down. Lavia, Bazunu, Bono Gittins, who went to Dortmund, who's been doing bits and bobs over there. Obviously, Dortmund in the past they signed Sancho as well. They signed they like them and Chelsea do very well underneath the layers of what you normally see. Selling like getting all the kids through and selling them off. I remember in my mini claim to fame. It's not a claim to fame as such, but at all. But
here we go.
10 years ago, I refereed a game. I've said it about 1 million times. I refereed Chelsea versus Reading under 18s, and in that starting lineup was, of course, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who unfortunately hasn't got to those heights, but he was 16 years old and set up 5 and scored 1 in that game. But also in that game, Jamal Blackman was in goal. He went for half decent money. And Jeremy Boga, who started a couple of the Premier League games, went to Sassuolo, went for half decent money. Charlie Masonda was in that starting lineup. He went for decent money. And it's not like we're not talking about millions and millions. We're talking here's 5, there's 10, there's 8, there's 2.5. There's all these little bits and bobs. Like for instance, when Chelsea signed Lukaku for £90 million, everyone's going, "Oh my God, Chelsea spent £90 million." I'm pretty sure that season, the amount of outgoings, they pretty much got him for free.
Yeah.
So, and that's what City have been doing. They'll splash 50 million on every player. Every player is £50 million I think that's one of those football conspiracies.
But the thing is, Gav,
Every City
when did
player
they
is
last
probably
make a
different.
bad sign? Which player did they last buy that everyone went, "Oh, that's a sticker"?
Well, people
Phillips.
People
Yeah,
have
but
next season.
But what's
season.
he
You have to
been
give him-
bought for,
give him the
Dave? Do you
second
know what I
season.
mean? Like,
Wait for his second season.
I think he was
Dave.
bought as a Fernandinho replacement. And I mean, I think Calvin's a really good player. I do him a disservice. The only trouble with Calvin is he's so injury prone. Do you know what I mean?
But
yeah,
then,
just a big up to Margot
fans-
in the chat. She's
Go on, Margot.
she follows me round. She follows me round, and she sometimes outside my work, and it's all a bit embarrassing. But you know, we do.
Has
what we
Henry
do.
Wright asked her who her favourite player is yet?
he would. Henry would go up to her and go, "Hi, Margot. Quick question. In the 1995 FA Cup final, who scored the winning goal?"
Paul Rideout, 28th minute.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Paul Rideout.
You beat me to it, Gav. You beat me to it. Mate.
but no. Like,
We'd have a decent
football
pub quiz
fans-
team, I reckon.
Football fans were saying, "Oh, City have made a massive faux pas. Why they signed Nathan Ake for £40 million? He's only Nathan Ake. He ain't all that."
Exactly.
And then even when he was starting a couple of games at the beginning of the season, fans were kicking off again.
Yep.
And now he's regarded
been
as one
brilliant.
of the best players this season.
Superb.
Yeah.
Because like, can you imagine? Oh, that's a shrewd signing. I heard someone say.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
But
go
every
ahead,
city
go ahead.
signing is
Absolutely
every
wrong.
city signing is like that though. And this is
Yeah.
why when people talk too early, this is the beauty of Pep's system. He never is desperate to get a player who has to come in start right away because he always knows when to chop a player out of his team. And whenever
Exactly.
he brings a player in, he knows he has enough time for him to get ready and develop to play into his system.
Jack
This is why
Grealish.
first year doesn't really count.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Grealish is the prime example. The one
And
thing I'll
also-
say though with Calvin Phillips, the only reason I think that isn't a good signing is because I was one of the people, as an example, last season who was defending Jack Grealish because I saw the difference between how he played for Villa and how he's expected to play for City. And it's not that he is a bad player. He just needed some time to adapt to that system.
Mhm.
On the other hand, Calvin Phillips, it's not a playing issue. Calvin Phillips, when we heard a few things about him, it was him being out of shape, being overweight, stuff like that. It was more of professionalism when Pep spoke about him. So it's not like we've seen Calvin Phillips play and he's making a few mistakes just because he's not used to passing the ball a lot, this and that. He has a separate issue than the likes of Ake and Grealish and even Akanji, all these people that came in. They needed time to adapt. It seems like he has just a professionalism issue that is actually holding him back from getting enough minutes.
Staffy, can I just say, don't you think the difference between him and the other players? So when you look at all of the players that come in, other than superstars, other than your Haalands, and when he bought Diaz went straight in at the back to solve that problem.
Yeah,
But
Diaz was clear.
Bernardo Silva, Gundogan,
Took a year.
Mahrez,
Took a year.
Foden bedding
Took a
him in,
year.
Grealish,
Took a year.
all of them he
Rico
bedded
Lewis.
in, right? All of them he took to bed them in. The difference for me is that Calvin Phillips is vying for one spot only. All the others, all those players we mentioned could go
Yeah.
right, left,
Yeah.
centre.
Yeah.
Calvin Phillips is playing behind, for me, I'm going to make a big statement here, the best player in the Premier League. I'm going to say that right now. I think
Wow.
Rodri is single-handedly the most important player in the Premier League for what he does for Man City.
See,
I love
the way
that.
You,
I love
the way
that.
you phrased that the second time.
The second
makes
time is
perfect
better.
sense.
But,
Yeah,
mate,
Yeah.
I think he
integral
is.
to that
I think
City
he is
system, I think.
He is Sergio Busquets reincarnated. He
Yeah.
sits there, he protects the back four. His passing range is phenomenal, and when City don't have Rodri, it doesn't look the same. And he is
But
Busquets for me.
Yeah, it goes to show how good Pep's man management is, because he had Fernandinho, who for me is one of the most underrated players in Premier League history.
Yeah.
One of the best defensive midfielders that this league's ever seen. And he's gone from Fernandinho, and Rodri's just gone in there as if Fernandinho never existed, and perhaps has performed even at a higher level than Fernandinho, because he offers more going forward than what Fernandinho did. But he's never lacking going back either. He's picked up the mantle with the tactical fouling. They're the best at it. And I think, I agree with you. I think Rodri's so important to the way Man City play. I think that's why I think Calvin Phillips I don't think he has the intelligence to do what Rodri does.
No,
and
he's
I
not
think
a player, is he?
City will probably end up moving him on, but I reckon they'll get a decent wage of money back, if not make a profit on it.
Don't you think one of the things with Pep as well, guys? We look at Man City and the star-studded squad they've got. This is a squad that were able this year to go, right, Jesus, we'll let you go. Zinchenko, we'll let you go. Sterling, you can go. Mid-season, Cancelo, go on.
Yeah.
You go as well. This summer, I reckon you'll probably see, not all of them, but I think you're going to see Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, maybe Amares. One or two of them will go.
Walker.
And he'll just bring in players that everyone will go, oh, why have they bought them? They'll cuss them for the first year, and then in the second year we'll go, oh, Pep's a genius, like it's his first rodeo.
Savva, do you know what City do? And they do it better than any club, certainly in this country. City buy themselves time to give to players. Mm-hmm. And by that, I mean, you've seen it with Phil Foden. You'll see it with Cole Palmer. You'll see it with Rico Lewis. You'll see it with Julian Alvarez, who I think will end up becoming a phenomenon, a bit like Aguero, you know. And okay, I think Haaland is the exception to the rule, because he just, there you go, in you go, and he starts doing what he does, what he did at Dortmund. You know,
he's only going to get 12 to 15 goals this season. Stop getting on his you know, he ain't all that. He's been playing in the Farmers League for however long, you know. He's not that type of player.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
you
always feel like all these City players are like sort of long-term projects. You know, and whereas every other club, United needs somebody straight away. Arsenal are going to need somebody straight away. Tottenham need loads straight away. We need some. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like everybody else is running to catch up, whereas City are just bobbing along nicely.
Because they don't wait too long to get rid of players. When you look at how they handled Aguero and Silva, like everyone remembers at that time he was working on developing Foden for like 3 years. So the minute Silva leaves, he can throw him in. In the starting 11. Yaya Toure, they've always done it with certain players where they always have a replacement ready, and the minute that person leaves, we're okay because we've already pre-planned what are we going to do when this player is out. And unfortunately, they're the only club that does that. Sir Alex used to do that, but as a Manchester United fan, we haven't seen that in years, and this is why we have to pay big money, because we need a Sancho, we needed a Pogba, we needed a Zlatan. We needed a Di Maria. We needed a Lukaku.
Staffy, if like there's so many players that you mentioned there, and the only thing that was missing with Man United for all these years was a DM. And if you'd had that, I reckon Man United would have been challenging again and again straight after that. It's hard to find. Like it is hard to find, but like for instance, like Pogba, when you re-signed Pogba, the issue was you had to play him in the deep position. You weren't able to utilize him. Like if Pogba was in this Man United team this season, we'll be talking a whole different thing.
Well, if he was healthy, because he hasn't been healthy all season. But if you're talking about prime Pogba, maybe.
Injuries happen to any player and every player. So I'm not considering injury in this conversation. I'm considering the player and the ability of that player. The only thing missing was in that Man United team was a defensive midfielder. They've been crying out for one for 10, 11 years. The best games that Man United have played this season is when Casemiro has been in the team. Well, as soon as he is removed from that team, he looks lost. Arsenal, same sort of vibes. With as soon as a defensive midfielder come into Arsenal, then, you know, the legend, as Savva called him earlier on, Granit Xhaka, ends up looking back.
Hang on.
No. There's substance to it, and Devo will be my witness as well, because throughout the Euros, we were doing daily Euro shows back in 2021, and we spoke highly of Granit Xhaka in a Switzerland shirt, and the reason why he is so good. And it's because he had a defensive midfielder alongside him doing the dirty work. He is not a defensive midfielder. Same with United Staffy, innit? Fred, is he a defensive midfielder? No, he is not. McTominay, is he a defensive midfielder? No, he is not. And also, Liverpool have had these issues as well this season when Fabinho has not been playing, and they've had to play Henderson and another in that situation, and how awful are Liverpool been. It's almost like you're sacrificing two players. You're walking out with 10 men in every game because you're sacrificing a player by playing two in that position and just leaving a gap where you should be singing and dancing elsewhere. And I would argue that's where Tottenham are going wrong at the moment this season. Tottenham are going wrong in many a place. We know that. But if you play one defensive midfielder and then you have a decent centre-half partnership, then you have got that opportunity to go elsewhere. Because Tottenham fans have also said, if we had Eriksen this season, we'd be doing all right. No, you would not, because you are still struggling because you haven't got your Spurs, and two, you haven't got the defensive midfielder to do the thing that they should be doing to allow the shackles to come off the feet of the two players in front of you if you are playing.
Gav, you could have mentioned any position on the pitch as to where Spurs need to strengthen, my friend.
all of which just completely emphasizes how good Rodri is.
You know I just want to correct Gav on one thing though, because I know we're gonna move on, but I just gotta go back real quick, because if there's any Man United fans watching right now, they're probably screaming this inside them and they want me to say it.
Go for it.
Saying we needed the DM, totally agree with you. My only objection is you saying it was the one thing that you needed. It wasn't the one thing that we needed.
When Fergie left, there was gaps. You lost 3 of your back 4 from the previous season, so exactly. I understand that. But in terms of what was the fundamental part of what was needed to,
of course, I understand,
hang around and move forward was a DM.
I understand that it would have made us better, but you did say it would have made us challenge, and I just have to disagree, because I'm not going to talk about a certain phase because there's been a lot of phases of failure anyways. I could just mention there was phases where when we didn't have a good defensive line at all, we had Smalling and Blind or Marcos Rojo, and then we transitioned to Maguire and Lindelof. That was not a backline that would help you, no matter who is in your DM.
Maguire makes everyone smile, doesn't it?
With those players, the number of goals that you were conceding was still relatively low, and it looked defensively.
That's what I'm saying. I don't remember
so bad. It looked so bad on the eye defensively, but you still weren't conceding as many goals as
I don't think much of that COVID season where we had an undefeated record away from home. I don't take that serious at all, because that was winning away when there's no fans isn't really an away game. Like, I didn't really care about that. But I'm just trying to mention that we still had issues. Like, Pogba was there, but if you gave Pogba DM, it still doesn't change the fact that we had Valencia playing in right back. We had Smalling or Maguire in defense. We had issues in our attack where we went from Lukaku to Martial, and Martial had his doubts. We haven't had a right winger in years. We were playing Lingard and them over there. The whole team was a mess. A DM would have helped us, probably would have saved us from a couple seasons where we finished outside the top 4, but definitely not a challenging team whatsoever.
Well, let's move it on then. Talking about midfielders. So today, it's been announced by Romano that the legend that is Granit Xhaka is signing for Bayer Leverkusen. And I don't want to talk about that.
This is good, but this is good for me because they're my German team. So,
okay, cool. You hang on to that.
Close to my heart. That's fine.
But so what I want to talk about is with Xhaka going, there's been talks for a very long time now about Declan Rice moving from that horrible part of London down the road from my part of London to another part of London, which is also near my team's part of London. Didn't need to say all that. Moving from West Ham to, I don't know where I was going with that at all.
You've been hanging around with me too long.
I know. In essence, Declan Rice, they're talking about 90 to 110 million, somewhere in that figure, to go to Arsenal. We've got 3 Arsenal fans on the panel. Let me start with you guys before I go to Dave and Staffy. 1, how big a signing would that be? 2, is it what you need? And 3, does it take you to the next level? Fran, I'll start with you.
Yeah, that's kind of the question I'm grappling with, that final question. I'd have been so excited about Declan Rice, like the last couple of seasons when we're finishing 5th, 8th, that kind of thing. It would be a massive upgrade. But now I think he's about he would like slot in nicely, do a job, but is he really like raising the standards to the levels that we need for Champions League and things like that? I think he is good, but not as a first choice player. I want someone that like is super, just excites the whole fan base, and we know like this guy is the real deal. I can't. I mean,
is he not? Let me ask you then, Fran. Is he not? Look, so for England, and I don't have a dog.
For England, like, you know what? I do rate him. I think maybe it's just because I think I'm tainted by this season with how poorly like West Ham are doing and stuff. Whereas when we actually play him, when he plays for England, like he's super aggressive, super physical, really quite similar to Partey in that sense. So I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. I think it would be a solid signing, but I'd like to see another more exciting midfielder as well.
Devo. Bellingham this season, babe.
Devo.
For me,
season after, when we win the Champions League next year, we might get Bellingham after.
That's what annoys me, though. I don't get why we're not in the conversation for these kind of players, though. Like,
but do you think you can match Real Madrid for Jude Bellingham?
In terms of like money or how appealing we are?
Anything. In terms of money.
The Coronet is probably the best Weatherspoons I've ever been in, you know. So, you know.
No, but I don't get why we're shopping, as I'm saying, in these like slightly like the tier down shops. We're not going to get to the top level without buying the top level ready-made star players.
I have to disagree on that, and the reason why I disagree on that is because this is what City have done for years. This is what Liverpool have done for years. This is what we need to do. I even said it for a stupid reason. I allowed myself to be part of an Arsenal WhatsApp group, and I've muted it already because it does my head in, right? But if Arsenal are not a world-class team, we are not world-class. So if we are getting world-class players, that tells me that those players are not ambitious enough because they are looking to take a step down. And if a player comes to Arsenal who is world-class already, they are taking a step down. I want what Liverpool have done and what City have done. They get the best players because I would class us as a tier 2 club. The world class is tier 1, right? We're talking Real Madrid, Barcelona, City, all them, man. Yeah, Bayern. We are tier 2. We are hanging around in that conversation with the Dortmunds and that sort of thing. But teams that can challenge and get in and amongst stuff. I want to get the best players from tier 3 who are clearly stand out. Mane was a clear standout. Van Dijk, clear standout at Southampton. Yeah. Gareth Barry was a clear standout at Villa before he went to City. You know, those are the types of players that I want that are standing out far head and shoulders above everybody else at their current club, who are ready to make that step up and become world class, and those are the ones that will make Arsenal move forward and progress.
But Gabby, you already have a lot of those. That's the issue. Actually, you have a lot of those.
We haven't. Yeah, we're in the process of doing that.
I was just going to say about.
I'm gonna let you go first, and I'll get back to that.
Because for me, I think it's being a little bit disrespectful to Declan Rice to make out that there's such a big difference between him and Jude Bellingham. I think Jude Bellingham is a great player, but I think Declan Rice has proved year on year out, no matter what West Ham are doing, his performances never dip. He's always there. He leads from the front. His engine never stops. He can play. He can break up play. He can move the team up the pitch. He's a leader. For me, I think he's exactly what we need in our midfield. I think if Partey's not on it, which he's not been for quite a while now in the last few games, we've seen Jorginho come in and do a job, but can Jorginho do that job over 38 games? I don't think he gives us the same dynamism. I think someone like Declan Rice will come in and he will challenge Thomas Partey to be at his very best. Otherwise, he will lose his job. We've not had that. Before, it was Partey, you're playing. If not, Elneny, what are you doing? Do you know, that's the difference. Man City will take a man out. They'll take out Foden and say, you're not on form, Mahrez. Right, well, you're not on form.
That's the thing, Devo, as well.
We need to be in that same, if we want to challenge. we need to be in that same boat. One sec, we need to be in that same boat. So I don't think it's a thing of saying Declan Rice won't improve us, because he will. He will improve us tenfold, because the drop off from our first team won't be so big. It means we're taking a man out, we're bringing the next man in who could do the exact same job better. What I don't want to happen is Declan Rice is the only signing we make. Because I think there's more to the squad that needs to be changed. And I think I was looking at it today, the amount of players that we still have on the squad. If we can sell players such as Pepe, we've already made money off of Mario, albeit 5 million, but he weren't never going to play for us again. 5 million is decent. But if we could sell other players and make decent money.
Can I just add just quickly? Can I just really quickly add? Right, we are all talking about Declan Rice of West Ham and England, right? I feel like we're talking about a player I feel like we're talking about Harry Winks, like somebody said. I feel like Declan Rice is getting a massive, and I hope none of my West Ham mates are watching this, because I always dig him out in front of them. But this guy's a quality central midfielder, right? That pisses over anything you've got in your midfield right now. No,
just sort of like edging on the back of what Devo was saying. On the back of what Devo was saying, like what we've done this season is like if you ask us at the beginning of the season, ask any Arsenal fan at the beginning of the season, would Arsenal get top 4? We would be like, we are hoping that we get top 4. What we've seen this season is disappointment, and the reason why, we've got a squad effectively of 13 to 14 players, exactly the same as Tottenham Hotspur in the 2016-17 season, because like that season, right, your starting 11, the cohesion and the players themselves, in my opinion, were the best.
Yeah. In the league, it was the best in the league.
If you go man for man, you could pick off anyone and have an argument about anybody. But if you look at the starting 11 as a whole, Tottenham's starting 11 in 16-17 season was the best. And I would argue that, I would say straight away, our starting 11, fully fit as it was in this season, the only team that rival it is Man City. Other than that, it is the best. But if you take any player out of our starting 11, we are struggling. Whereas Man City are not. And the same thing with Spurs. Spurs had 14
Gav,
players.
does he start for you?
Who?
If Declan Rice signs tomorrow, does he start in your 11?
Shouldn't be a question. Shouldn't be a question.
Right, for me, he's the first name on your team sheet. I think he transforms you as a team. I think he's everything that you're like. I like Partey, right? I'm not going to talk about off-field activities.
As a player.
I like Partey, but I do feel that there's too many games I watch where it's like, oh, you've had a bit of a brain fart there.
At the beginning of the season, he was brilliant. He had his little injury, and he showed it was missing. And when he came back, it was like, oh, this is what we're missing. But in the last 8, 9, 10 games that he's featured in, it's been a grave disappointment. Yeah. And the fact that Jorginho has come in, who I like anyway, and I've always been quite fond of, he has come in and looked the part, but we know that we need more. And Declan Rice for me is that more. We go. I would even be happy if Granit was to stay. I really would be. Oh, yeah. And if we played, well, you know, I love him anyway. But like, if we played Rice, Granit, Odegaard, I'd be happy with that midfield 3. I really would for a season, and then the next season go out and get.
Would you sell Partey?
Would I sell it? No. This is the problem, because this
you need a squad. You need a squad.
This is the biggest problem with Arsenal fans. This is the biggest problem with Arsenal fans, and this is the biggest problem why I muted that group. Because I remember talking about Trossard at the beginning of the season and saying like, "Oh, I wouldn't mind him," you know, and then people go, "Oh, who did he start in front of?" It's a squad. Yeah. It's a squad. You know,
the reason I'm asking,
let's go get a striker. Oh, what is he going to start ahead of Jesus? Does Alvarez start ahead of Haaland? No, but Alvarez is more than capable of coming in, stepping in, and Alvarez is also more than capable to stand alongside him as well. And you need that sometimes. This is what I'm saying. All these players that people are saying, oh, I don't want him in my team because he's not going to start ahead of this person. We are going to sound like Spurs of 16-17. And that's what I don't want.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Here's why I'm asking, though. I also agree with your point earlier that Arteta doesn't have anything outside of a strong 11. You can argue Trossard because he's on the bench. So that's
We have a
12
squad of
players.
14, 13.
I would say 12 because I can't think of anyone else. coming off your
Jorginho,
bench.
Trossard,
I think though there's
Okay.
an
13.
oh no, go on.
Yeah, just let me get to my point. Yeah, so the reason I'm saying that is first of all, I think you guys lost the title because of that simple fact. The fact that Pep has like a good 16, 17 players, where Arteta just has a very strong 11, and whoever comes on can't really fill in the shoes of who's you replacing. Jorginho couldn't really do the same role that you expected Partey to do. Tierney couldn't do the same role you expected Zinchenko to do. Even Nketiah, when he came in to replace Jesus, he wasn't really getting the goals. Yes, you were winning, but he wasn't doing that much. Saka, when he's out of form, you can't really bring in someone for him because what's his name? The Portuguese guy, Fabio Vieira, can't really do what he's supposed to do. Supposedly that guy was the new Bernardo Silva.
Well,
But the reason-
Staffy, I mentioned to a West Ham, I went not to a West Ham fan. I said I would like someone like Jared Bowen to come in to Arsenal.
To add depth,
And I said, who's he going to start ahead of? Nobody. But I'll tell you what, is bloody good. And he can play on the right hand side.
Would Bowen want
and he
to
can
sit
cut in
on the
his left
bench? That's
No,
the thing. Would
but he could
Partey
push-
want to sit on the bench?
Yeah,
if
but
Rice comes
isn't?
in?
Can I
This
just
is why
add?
I'm
Sorry,
asking these questions.
Staffy. Sorry, for me, I think this old notion now of would this player sit on the bench? I think that's got to change because even when you look at Man
It's not-
City, hang on, Staffy. When you look at the best team in this country for the last 6 years, Liverpool won it once. Man City are about to win it unless they collapse. About to win it for 5 times out of 6. Right? They're the benchmark. And Man City, 1 week can field Haaland, Grealish, Mahrez. The next week they can field Alvarez, Foden, and Silva. Now, we could sit here and say about every single one of those superstars who plays for City, would they want to sit on the bench? The difference is they know that their club is going to be competing for League Cup, FA Cup, Champions League, right?
Yeah.
So they know
Exactly,
there's
Savva.
yeah, but that's my
That's
point.
actually
Staffy.
you actually answered yourself, but there's a difference between doing that for Pep and doing that for Arteta.
Yeah, but
Sir
that's
Alex
what
used
Arsenal
to
have
do
to-
that.
Yeah, but Staffy,
See, but that's what we need to
Arsenal
build.
have to
That's what we
get
need to
that,
build towards. Yeah,
right?
that's what we need to.
That's,
I think Arteta
you don't
is
get that
the right
overnight.
person to drill that into players. I think Arteta, for me, and this could just be because I love the man, but I think when players see what Arteta does and see what he's like around the players, if you were to go to the club and Arteta was to say, look, this is the project, this is what I want from you, I think players will want to play for him. I think he has that about him where he looks like the kind of manager that will run for a brick wall for his players. And I think players will want to play for him. I think that they will believe in what he's doing.
I actually
Devo,
think if you want to reach
did-
that point, one point, Savva, I was going to say,
Go.
I actually think if you guys want to reach that point, that's going to be beyond Arteta. I think for you to reach that point, you need a manager like Luis Enrique as an example, because this guy has a big resume. When you have a big manager like that with a big name like that, imagine he comes in and he has his Barcelona links. Just name me someone of Barcelona who's being sold. No one specific. Let's say Pedri wants to leave. Okay, he worked with him in Barca and on the Spanish national team. Imagine he's for sale. This guy, this quick, can get you Pedri into Arsenal. Not guaranteed, but he has that pull where he can attract a big name like that, and that big name comes in, and he's gonna sit someone right away on the bench because he is a big manager who has his respect, has his accomplishments, and he has pull on big names. That's the difference between me saying, yes, you are right, Savva, but that's Pep. And that's Arteta.
Yeah, but you have to build, Steffi. You have to build to that, right? You can't. You look. Even when Man City first got their money, it wasn't like they went from where they were to overnight having a squad. You have to build an 11 and then move on. My point is this, and Dave, I'll bring you in here, and if you can answer my question and then say whatever it was that you wanted to say, would be great.
I'll try.
I don't. If I'm Man City at the top of the table and Arsenal now who are second, and even to a lesser degree Newcastle, Chelsea, Liverpool, if I'm signing players, I don't want to sign players that say I'm only playing if I play every single game of the year, because top players will have belief in themselves that they know I'm going to play every game, or the manager's going to play me when they know what's best for me. Like Gundogan doesn't play every game. Bernardo Silva doesn't play every game. Foden's been a bit part. Foden's been in and out of the team. Yeah. You look, Laporte. Look at how bloody good is Laporte.
What a shout on Laporte.
Right. And this is the thing for me. I think that the days of will they come and sit on a bench, Gav was 100% right. When Tottenham were flying high, we were everyone's favourite second team other than Arsenal fans for that couple of years under Poch, right? When we were playing this lovely football and we had 11, we had a very, very good 11, maybe 12, 13, 14. And every year under Poch, we'd get to February and it would be like you could see them blowing out their asses, right? Because they played week in, week out. Now, what everyone said at the time was, why are we going to buy him? What? Dele Alli's going to sit on the bench. Eriksen's going to sit on the bench. Kane's going to sit on the bench. And what we've seen is, because we didn't buy those players that can come in and challenge, the team slowly, one by one, started with Walker. Walker went. Wanyama went. Dembele went. Eriksen went. Jan, Rose, Toby. All of them slowly but surely went. And now look at the state of Spurs, because we didn't back up behind that brilliant. It was a brilliant 11.
But you also didn't win, Savva. Like, what you're saying is true. But if you won, these players would have wanted to stay. And Arsenal haven't been winning.
Staffy, why didn't we win? Why didn't we win? Why are Arsenal not winning? You can't do it with 11, 12 players.
You can't sustain it.
The game has evolved, right? I'm older than you lot put together. I've seen how the game has evolved. When I was a kid, 60s and 70s, it was an 11-man game and you had a sub and he was just another body. We're into an age now where we have 9 subs, and it is not about the 11 that is on the field at any one time. It's about a whole coterie of people around it. You know, hang on, and I think we've had a guy in our club who chucked his toys out the pram because he wasn't picked in a squad, and he's now a bit of a pariah. Do you know what I mean? So we can't have that. Looking at Arsenal, the blueprint is right in front of Arsenal, and that's Manchester City. And they've got a guy who was schooled in the Manchester City way as their manager. And I have what it seems to me is like we raise a name, and then it's like, right, I like Declan Rice. I think Declan Rice would, if I was an Arsenal supporter, I'd want Declan Rice and I'd give him the armband straight away. He's got more character. I think Declan Rice has real character as a person, as a personality, and as a leader. And I'd have him as my cornerstone of a team. I think he gives you that. He's an England international. I think Declan's world class. I saw him run a game against us a couple of months ago where we lost 4-0. And I just thought, how good is that guy? And he stands out as a bloke. He's got something about him, right? And then the point that was made earlier is that but it can't just be Declan. It got to be somebody else. I mean, I wrote down Caicedo, right? And somebody raised in the notes underneath. God, it sounds like we're at school, doesn't it? But somebody said in the comments below, you know, James Ward-Prowse. Now there's a lad who's playing. Is so underrated because he's a decent, orderly human being who doesn't give it big flash licks. James goes under the radar, and I'd have him.
Do you remember his debut when he first made it into the Premier League against Man City? They lost the game 3-2. When the season they just gone back into the Premier League at Southampton, and he was playing like if you want to argue as a right winger, he was playing like a 4-4-2. Yeah, and I was like, he was whipping balls in. I was like, this kid, he had a right peg, and I was thinking, that's David Beckham-esque, the way he's whipping that ball in. He's unbelievable.
What you get with him as well is you get like set pieces are so crucial in modern football, it seems to me. You know, like when we played them in that epic 4-3, we were all sitting in the Trenton going, please don't give a free kick round our box. Don't give anything.
Was a good way of pen.
They had a penalty at the end, and a bloke next to me went, what do you think? What do you think? He's already scored it. Why has he already scored it? Because his name is James Ward-Prowse. And where I am with Arsenal, right, I've got really irritated about this bottling thing, right? How can, if Arsenal were like rampant favourites at the start of the season and then conspired to kind of do really stupid things to hand it to a lesser City, then I would say it's a bottle. City
No,
at the
Dave,
start of the
no,
season.
come on.
No,
Hang
can
on,
I
hang on,
chip in?
Staffy. At the start of the season, not one of us here,
Yeah, would
not
have
one
said
of us
Arsenal
six
for the title.
would have
Dave, but
said.
I get that. I get that, but no, Dave, you're
I-
wrong because of the expectations changing throughout the
No,
season,
no,
Dave.
Staffy again.
Obviously.
Well,
Staffy,
this is the
you
thing.
seem to think
We're
you-
into
you-
hindsight, Staffy. We're into hindsight, mate. We can
Staffy,
only say
you
that now
seem-
looking back.
You seem to think that teams with 11 to 12, 13 players can. Okay, let me take this back. When Arsenal were having
need
their
more
brilliant
depth.
run, right? When Arsenal were having their brilliant run, I think you won like 7, 8 games in a row after losing 3. I
To
think you lost
City.
a couple,
We
and
lost
then
to City,
you went
didn't we?
7 or 8 games. And the thing is, no football fan. For me, no football fan that with using common sense looked at Arsenal and went, Arsenal are going to win their last 15 games. It just
Agreed.
it isn't right. But most fans that have watched the Premier League for however many years looked at Man City and went, this is Pep Guardiola time. This is what Man City do. And the problem is, yes, expectations change throughout a season, but just because expectations change doesn't mean that all of a sudden these Arsenal players can play 90 minutes week in, week out without getting tired mentally. Plus, they've not experienced winning that league.
So they were out of
haven't-
all the tournaments, though. They were out of all
So?
tournaments, playing 1 game a week,
So?
and they didn't lose the league because City was brilliant. Because you could have still lost to City and still won the league. They didn't lose the league to City. They lost the league to Liverpool and Anfield in the last minute, to West Ham in the 2-2 draw, in Southampton game 3-3, and they lost to Brighton.
Staffy,
That's when they lost
But
the league.
Staffy,
It was actually
were they
in your
expected
hands.
to even be there at the start?
From the position they are in.
Arsenal are way ahead of their curve.
Hey, Fran,
This is
what
what
are
I
you saying?
think. At the start of the season, I
Go on,
thought
go on, hang on.
Arsenal,
Go on. Sorry,
Arsenal would
Fran.
be 5th or 6th.
I'm going to come to you, Fran, just really quickly before I do. Sorry,
Fran.
Alan Sibley, thank you so much with the massive donation. Alan knows that 50% of all my super chats do go to the British Heart Foundation. So, Alan, thank you very much. That's very, very kind of you. And I won't tell everyone that your nickname is 10 inch. I'll let people work that out for themselves. And you're living up to it. And
That's
I'm
how tall.
envious now.
That's how tall I am.
I feel small.
a big shout out to our newly crowned king who has come in and managed to find £1 within the monarchy somewhere. And thank you very much for that. Fran, take it away because I've got a feeling this debate will rumble on.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm too polite. Anyway, so I've got a couple of points. First of all, we're talking about the drop off from our teams, especially Arsenal's, I think, first 11 to 14 to 15. You know,
Yeah.
And I think quite a large component of why City seem to have a much larger, more quality squad is because of the amount that Pep substitutes and rotates earlier on in the season, because it seems that this is something Arteta needs to improve on, which is giving these newer players, the potential players, more time earlier on in the season, so that when it gets to crunch time, like it is now, players like they've gone out on loan now, but if there'd be more rotation, could players like Lokonga have come in and done a job? We've seen Kivior get some more game time, and he's done pretty well. I would just like to see these players getting more minutes like Pep does when we always think like, oh, City aren't starting very strong. That's because he's bedding in these less experienced players so that they can do a job for him at the end when some of the others potentially get injured, things like that. So I'd like to see a bit more of that rotation to get these players ready. And can I go just quickly? You know, the whole thing, the expectations at the beginning of the season. So the analogy I like to use is that, so Man City are Usain Bolt, okay? Dead favourites to win the league, and you're someone expected to come 3rd or 4th, an all right runner. You might not have the best equipment. You've only got like 13 or 14 players in your squad, right? But you find yourself leading 93% of the race. And then, Bolt's just coming back steadily doing his thing. And for me, it's as if like we tripped over our own shoelaces right on the finish line, rather than City just like overtaking us.
Can I ask you a question, Fran, though? Let me ask you a question,
on.
Fran. I think the key thing for me is, look, and bearing in mind I'm a Spurs fan, so I'd love to sit here and go, bottle.
Yeah,
I
but
feel
you're
like
being too nice. I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah, but because look, I'll tell you why. Because at the beginning of the season,
because Savva is a proper like football fan, and this is why I always have respect for Savva. Like only you and
let's
you
not become a loving.
No, but
right.
you and Patrick. Patrick has been given it large recently, actually, to be fair. But I think he's doing it on a wind up because the message exchange between me and Patrick have been very respectful. But you, Patrick, are like the Spurs fans that I talk to the most about football conversations. First, we can have our banter about rivalry, but when you take your fandom
I take my
off
Spurs
and
hat
then
off.
talk football,
So
then
the one thing for me I hate, which has crept into everything now, is the word bottled, right? And every time a team loses a game, they bottled it. Well, no, how about sometimes the other team they're playing is better or wanted it more, or right?
Yeah.
Look, the way I look at it is this, right? Staffy, I know you're saying I'm being too kind, but the way I look at it is this. Arsenal, for me, I had Arsenal to finish 5th this year, right? So at the beginning of the year, when I'm sitting there, when I'm sitting there, go on, Fran, you all right?
Okay, yeah, but two things can be true. Okay, like it would be that we were expected to come 4th, 5th, or whatever, but it can also be true that we did screw ourselves, bottle it a little bit at the end.
Sure, this is what I'm getting to.
Does that not disrespect Manchester City's superiority?
Can I get to my? Can I just make my point?
I'll go after you, buddy. I'll go after you, Sav.
Okay, let me make my point. The point is this: yes, expectations change, but as a football fan, I look at a squad and go, right, that squad there has qualified for Europa League. They've bought a couple of good players. Let's be really honest. Out of all the signings Arsenal made, only 2 were proper that were going to come straight into the first 11. If we're being really, really honest, right? Zinchenko and Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at Jesus getting injured for however many months. And I'm looking at it and going, okay, 5th. I was wrong on that. Not just 4th. Not just 3rd, but massively clear in 2nd. Now, if I look at that Arsenal squad, if anyone had said to me, they're going to win their last 15 games, I'm looking at that squad and going, why? No, I'm not knocking Arsenal here, by the way. I'm looking at the squad. I'm looking at the depth. I'm looking at the experience. And I'm saying, why do people think they're going to win week in, week out? Because Man City... Not only do Man City have the best squad, I think, in Europe by a country mile, what Man City have more than the best squad is they have the best manager with a wealth of experience of getting over this line. Yeah. They've got a squad with a wealth of experience who know how to get themselves over the line and get themselves out of trouble. And a squad that are used to playing Wednesday, Saturday, they're used to it. So when we say, but Arsenal only have 1 game a week, that's great, but they've still got young, inexperienced players that aren't used to this pressure. And for me, Arsenal finishing 2nd on what they're going to finish on, 90 odd points.
Essentially 90 points.
Right?
Yeah.
That's insane. So if we're calling that, bearing in mind I'm Spurs, if we're calling that bottling, I want Spurs to bottle next year. If that's bottling.
Let me get that. I was going to make. Sorry, Steph. Just to kind of go off the back of that, but I think a lot of people don't put things into context when they're talking about the season. Obviously, yes, we were talked about possibly sneaking into 4th. What people don't take on is Arteta was the youngest manager in the league until Southampton, for some reason, put that amateur in charge. We got the youngest squad in the league. So when you take these things, we had absolutely no right to go toe to toe with Man City. It's like putting me in a boxing ring with Mike Tyson. No, you shouldn't have done it. It doesn't make sense. It's actually very irresponsible for us to go toe to toe with Man City. So I think, yes, expectations do change. When we were in that position that we were in, we could have seen it out better. As Fran said, we tripped over our own shoelaces a little bit. But to use the analogy that Fran used, I know if I was sprinting and I knew Usain Bolt was coming behind me, I would be nervous as fuck. Thinking he's going to catch me. And that's essentially what happened. Man City are a juggernaut. And I think it got to the point where we were so caught up in what a race that we've become embroiled in that essentially we lost our way. And that's going to happen. We're a young team. What my thing is now is, do we now move on next season and learn from this?
Agreed.
And become a better team? That's the big test.
You will learn from it, and I didn't take that away. But here's my thing. I listened to what everyone said, and probably Fran is the only one who had a similar opinion to me here. But here's why I disagree with you guys. I hear you guys. I understand the context. But what you guys are not acknowledging, that football is not played on paper, okay? I don't care what you say on paper. I don't care what the names say. Arsenal, for the majority of the season, 93% exactly, through the way of the season, they have shown us there was times that they were outperforming every team in Europe. They were tied with Napoli with the most points in the top 5 leagues this season. It was only them and Napoli that were running away with their leagues. So they found themselves in a position that we didn't expect. As far as I see over here, none of us here are experts, and we're not fortune tellers. So we all sat here and said, yes, Arsenal won't be in that position. But as I said, football's not played on paper. They showed us on the pitch that they were different. At some point, Partey was outplaying Rodri, okay? Saka was outplaying whoever. No, hold on.
I'm with him on that.
Not when it mattered, though.
Not when it matters.
No, I understand. I'm talking about earlier in the season.
Let him cook.
Earlier in the season, most of these Arsenal players were outdoing these Man City players, and you can name at least 7 of them. What do you mean?
What? Like, why were they outdoing them?
Savva, there were times of the season where we were unplayable.
Exactly.
I'm not doubting that. But you guys
in
can
the
put
beginning
percentages
of the
on it all you want.
90%. He's a Man United fan.
Exactly. And I have no love lost for Arsenal.
But a season is not
outperformed. No, but
season is not 93%. A season is 100%.
That is my
Man City.
That is actually my
experience.
But that's actually my point. You just proved my point. Because for the majority of the season, they were outperforming Manchester City. Manchester City were stumbling in the beginning of the season. They were getting some wins, and we all knew it wasn't pretty because we saw Haaland score, but the team didn't look good. They only started clicking very well in the last 2 months.
Conversation saying, is Haaland holding Man City back?
There was a time they were saying,
who's top now?
Yeah,
I laugh.
Who is top now when it matters the most?
When it matters.
Dave, but this actually proves my point. This is a bottle job because you went this whole way outperforming Man City, and then when it mattered the most,
I'm sort of with Shafi, and the reason why I just want to throw this one in there,
sorry,
if any team in the top half of the Premier League, right, ignore the name of the team. You pick up 9 points from a possible 21. Is that acceptable?
Mm-hmm.
In any form,
but that's not bottling.
No.
Savva,
answer the question. It's right. Okay. Like the Premier League table, right?
If this was a top 4 race,
so City's title, City's title, as it's looking like it's going to be. That's all on Arsenal doing really weak, bad things. Is it? No, Dave, I don't think we're giving Arsenal enough credit for having been in this position.
Dave, that's what I mean. Dave, there's a disparity between the team in 10th and the team in the 11th, right? Fulham are currently in 10th place, right, on 51 points, and Chelsea are on 43 points. Now, all I want is yes or no, show of hands. Would this form be acceptable? Yes or no? For 9 points out of 21 for Fulham right now. Is that acceptable?
For Fulham?
Probably yes.
Yeah? Okay, for Brentford
probably.
on 53 points in 9th place. Is that acceptable?
Brentford probably also.
Okay,
I don't get the line of question.
I get what he's trying to do.
It's not.
But those teams
trying to show you the
aren't
level
being
of
chased by
expectation.
Man City. That's the
Aston Villa.
They're not being chased by Man City.
Hang on. Can we put this into perspective? Gav, you said a minute ago about perspective, right? Let's perspective, context, right? You can outperform what you're meant to be doing for a period of time, right? But when it gets to, and we've all heard this saying, when it gets to the business end of the season, Arsenal don't have the squad, the experience, or the know-how. Yeah,
spread this out over the season, and I would accept it. But
hang on, but Gav, let me get there. Let me get there, right? At what point did you think to yourself, Right, Man City have gone on a Man City haven't lost. Is it what 23 or 24
It's a
games
monster
now?
run. It's a monster
Right?
run.
Right, but we all knew that. So when Staffy said just now, "Oh, Man City," Arsenal were outperforming Man City at the beginning of the season. Man City do this year
majority
in
of the
year.
season.
Hang on, Staffy. Let me get there. Right. Man City do this year in, year out, and everyone acts so surprised, like, oh, this Man City's not as good. And so many fans sit there and go, wait until February, and other fans go, no, they're not as good this year. And you're like, they're going to do it, right? So when Man City I've gone on this 23-24 unbeaten run that's seeing them in the FA Cup final, top of the Premier League, and 90 minutes away from the Champions League final, just a yes or no, is anyone here surprised at that run?
No, and I predicted it.
No, hang on, no, okay, no, right? No one is, and we predicted it. Would anyone have said 20 games ago that Arsenal will win 15 out of the next 20 games? No. No, because the squad isn't good enough, they're not experienced enough, and you burn out throughout the season. It's natural. So when we're talking about bottling, if I'm Arteta, right, let's have a look. Look at the weekend's game. Man City against Everton. Man City changed their entire front three other than Haaland. John Stones sat on the bench. Nathan Ake sat on the bench. Yeah. De Bruyne sat on the bench. Right. Arsenal, no offense, Arsenal can't do that.
And whose fault is that, Savva? But whose fault is that?
What do you mean whose fault is that?
I'll tell you whose fault is that.
One of the major turning points of our season is Saliba's injury. And a lot of people aren't talking about it, but Tomiyasu's injury. Yes, he wasn't on the best of form, but
because you haven't got the squad players,
we can then put Ben White in the centre. We don't have to play Rob Holding for those games. So I think it goes to show that's two players that we missed, and it made a massive dent.
But then
you just mentioned Nathan Ake could come out, Stones could come out. They bring in Diaz, they bring in Akanji, they bring in Laporte. Sorted.
But this is why. It's basic.
Yeah, but this is why when I say you need to upgrade on Arteta, people get upset with me.
You're talking about Arteta's fault.
How is that Arteta's fault? When you've been there for 3.5 years and you don't have like for like subs, why is Rob Holding there for 3 years when he can't play the same style of football that you want him to? Why is Kieran Tierney still there?
Over a whole squad like that.
You can't.
It's not like that. It's been 3.5 years. Well, this is my point. He's been there long enough.
In the squad.
Yes, but he's had long enough to at least have subs.
He had to get rid of all of the wages.
Hold on.
Aubameyang.
I know what you're saying.
Inflated players. He had to mold the squad into his image. You can't do that overnight when you haven't got the money.
It's not overnight. It's been 3.5 years, and some of these
players there's been no title challenge before this.
I want to get Fran in.
Oh, okay, right. So, just on the whole, getting towards the crunch point in the season, and that's when the players aren't quite good enough, and Man City have the stamina and the ability to do that. But that's why I get so frustrated, and this is not a popular opinion, but with the ownership downwards. In terms of January, we're top of the league. You can tell a few cracks are starting to form, okay? January is the chance where we can, yes, like the owners can really show, actually, we're in this position, which no one expected us to be in. Let's get 3 or 4 ready to go signings that can elevate our level and actually change the course of this where we're kind of petering out and win the league. And to me, I don't blame the players for running out of juice. Arteta, sometimes the in-game substitutions, but he's done an outstanding job with this crop of players. To me, it's about they needed that helping hand a bit more than rather just Trossard, who was ready to come in, basically. You know, for me, it's always about the intention of the owners downwards. But that's a whole other
I agree with you. Sure. Can I ask everyone a question? At the beginning of the season, who did you all predict to win the title?
City.
Right. Staffy, who did you predict to win the title?
I would say probably City or Liverpool. I probably said City.
Right. So if we all predicted Man City, and we all know Man City do this every year, I don't understand how Arsenal have bottled
We're going to have
anything.
to agree to disagree on that one, Savva.
We can agree to disagree, but one thing I want to mention that no one mentions is even when Arsenal had this lead, something that gets overlooked so much for me was Arsenal still had to play Man City twice, right? So even when it was an 8-point lead, a 9-point lead, whatever it was, 6 points of that is gobbled up by Man City.
Yeah.
So it was for me, it was never. And look, Devo, we had this conversation. Gav, we had this. Said all along, the 2 games that were coming up at that time for Arsenal v Man City, if Arsenal didn't win one of them, they're not winning the league for me, because Man City are monsters.
They still could have won the league.
Yeah.
They still could have won the league. That's my point. Is that you still could have look at the math. Go back to when they had that bad run of 4 games in a row. The math showed you that you could afford to lose to City. And that was their talk, by the way, at the time. They were doing all the math saying we could still lose to City, but if we get a draw on Anfield and win our next 2, then we'll be up by this amount of points.
But Stafford, did you expect them to win every game? Did you think they were going to lose
on
to
that
City
form that they were in? At that form that they were in, I don't know what was possible anymore, because I didn't even expect them to be there for that.
You do.
No, because I didn't expect them to get that far, and they proved me wrong.
Okay, hang on, Devo. Give me a second. Sorry, I need to hang on. Let me hang on. I need to ruin this. I'm sorry. when we're saying we don't know what was possible, yes, we do.
Oh, we don't.
Yes, we do. Hang on, Staffy, we do. Because the only team that puts this run together every year is Man City, right? Liverpool have sporadically in the last couple of years gone for title challenges, and right now with their 7 wins in a row. But that Arsenal squad, you're not telling me that I'm not sure what's possible. You are.
But you just said you didn't expect them to be in the top 4, and they proved you wrong. So that just shows that you don't know what you can expect. So if they already exceeded expectations,
4 and winning every game of the season.
But here's the thing: if they already exceeded your expectations, and they exceeded my expectations for basically 6-7 months, for 90% of the way. Why can I not also be wrong? Because I personally think they would bottle it, by the way. I'm saying all this, and I thought this would exactly happen. My thing is that we're just sitting here. I'm just the whole reason
sense.
It makes
you
perfect
thought
sense.
This would happen.
Exactly.
But they bottled it. I thought it would happen. So
and I thought they would bottle it.
Me.
No. I thought it would happen. And this is not the issue. The issue is that we didn't want to use the word bottling. This is why we're having this whole conversation. Because if we would have acknowledged from the beginning, it was a bottle job, because they were up for 93% of the way and they fumbled the bag in the end, this would have never been a conversation. I personally expected it, but I expected a bottle job. You just didn't want to call it bottle job.
Staffy, I want to know, right? So with the last 20 games of the season to go, you expected Arsenal to win 18 of them and only lose 2 games to City. Yes or no?
No, I did not.
So what are we saying here? Arsenal have done what we thought Arsenal were going to do. They won a lot of games, but they've also
overachieved.
They've overachieved.
They lost the games
overachieved.
But the games that they lost, they're better than Southampton. They're better than West Ham. Yes, you can argue they should have lost to City because they're the better team and it was at the Etihad. But you were up 2-1 to Liverpool.
Bayern are better than Mainz, but Mainz
City
3-1.
But City are better than Nottingham Forest, and they drew 1-1. You know, it happens. It's football.
Absolutely.
I've got to jump off in a minute. So
in isolation, but hold on, bro. In isolation, that game, City bottled it versus Nottingham Forest. They bottled that game.
No.
So you just said they're not.
Sorry.
When you are
that doesn't
losing
respect the
team,
effort that Forest put in that day.
Exactly.
That actually says
So
that
we're going
Forest
to act
was
like City
11 bodies lying on the floor.
So we're going to act
City
like
were excellent at Forest, but Forest found a way to get a point. And sometimes that happens. My view is Arsenal are way ahead of their curve. And to say Arteta has done nothing, they've been nothing
we give
for the
Arsenal
last few
too many
seasons.
excuses.
And now they're into a title challenge. And I think there is a paucity of managers who could be really much better than Arteta. Arteta's learnt with Pep. So that by association, I think Arsenal are going in a really good direction. The one point I do agree with is the one that Fran said, where January they could have added in a position of strength, and that would have helped them along. But I think Arsenal have done brilliant.
Go on, Devo. I know Devo needs to go, so go on, Devo.
That's the point. That's actually the point I wanted to jump in on, and I agree with you to an extent. But I also agree with what Edu and those guys were saying, where we have a philosophy and we have we have to stick to our philosophy. We got a structure. Yeah, we can't just blow that out of the water. They have a plan. Yes, they wanted Caicedo. They went in heavily for Caicedo, but Brighton obviously don't need to sell their players. which is their prerogative, which is fine. And they didn't play ball. So we went for Caicedo. We went hard. We went in twice, 3 times for him. They said, right, give us 120 million or whatever it was. We're not in a position to say, okay, we'll give you 120 million. We can't do that. We have to work within our remit. So I understand why we went and got Jorginho, which I think was a great signing. And we didn't make any more signings in January because we're not going to panic buy. We don't want to get into the situation where, we need bodies. Just sign him. That's a Chelsea thing to do. And look at the mess that Chelsea are in. Yeah. We don't want to do that. We have a structure. We stick to it. We've had a phenomenal season. Now we go again in the summer. We see what they can do. I trust, for the first time in a long time, I trust this club to make the right decisions.
Devo, do you know what's worrying?
What do next year.
Do you know what's worrying for me, Devo, as a football fan? And forget Spurs, forget Arsenal. My worry with how football fans are becoming is a team that finished 5th goes the next year, gets 30 odd points more than the year before, finishes 2nd, and the only thing
when you say it like
hang on, no, I'm saying it how it is, right? And when that happens, the whole football community goes bottle, right? We're saying now, we're saying
guys,
now because Man City, much love Devo. We're saying now because Man City didn't beat Forest, it's a bottle. So what we're now saying is every time a team better than another team doesn't beat them, it's bottling. I don't know where this saying has come from. I think it's.
You can change the saying when you're the favorite and you lose a game. Yes, you have to add the context that you were the favorite and you lost a game that you weren't expected. I'm not gonna say the word bottle every time, but yes, you do understand that this team should have won. Dude, this is why context is very important.
Brian Clough said, always expect the unexpected in football.
Not just that,
and it happens.
Even the bookmakers still had City as favourite for a period when Arsenal were a number of points clear and having played pretty much the same amount of games. That's because we had to play City twice. Bookmakers still had City as favourites based on what Savva was saying as well. You know, and once again, going back to what Savva was saying, after 20 games, there's 18 games to go. Would anyone even dream of Arsenal going on and winning 15 of those 18 games? No. And for me personally, if you were to spread out these results that have happened to Arsenal, I'm on the fence with it. I really am, because if you were to spread out the results of everything that's happened to Arsenal right now, nobody would have an issue. We'd be expecting this because of where we are. However, as I was going back to what I was saying, if you go to any team in the top half of this current Premier League table, 9 points out of 21 is not acceptable from anybody.
Agreed.
If City were to do it, it's not cool. If Arsenal did it, well, Arsenal have done it, not cool. If Newcastle did it, Man United did it, Liverpool, Brighton, Spurs, Villa, anyone who's challenging for anything, whether you are challenging for top 4, whether you are challenging to be in the top half, whether you're challenging for a title, challenging for Europe, 9 points out of a possible 21 is not acceptable. I wouldn't say I don't want to go as far as bottle job, and not at one point, as an Arsenal fan, not at one point have I said, not even tongue in cheek, that Arsenal are going to win the title this year.
I think that's probably where the bottle comes from, right? Fran, I'll bring you in here. I think probably a lot of this bottle saying comes from the number of Arsenal fans that did get way too above their station and were going on YouTube channels. Like, you know, I go on the Football Terrace and there's a couple of Arsenal fans that come on the Football Terrace and they're like that. Right. They're like, I'm sitting there going, guys, City are going to win the league. This is when Arsenal were 8 points clear or whatever it was. And everyone's going to me, you just hate Arsenal. And I'm like, no. I've just seen City do this. But Arsenal fans were, we're going to win the league. And I think
I said it on Igal's channel every week, Savva. Every week he would ask me for my predictions and I would say still City. And I would be predicting Arsenal wins. And I still think City would do it. But like Gav said, I'm sorry, friend, I'm going to let you go because I know you wanted to go. But when he said it perfectly, when you put the context of it not being 9 points in 21 games, including 4 games in a row where you didn't win, I promise you, Savva, if I would have spoke to you before every game and I would have been like, yo, Savva, today's Arsenal versus West Ham, what do you think? You would have said Arsenal win. If I told you, hey, today's Southampton and Arsenal, you would say Arsenal win. If we're watching the game together, I'm like, yo, Savva, Arsenal up 2-0 on Liverpool in Anfield. Actually, 5 minutes left, they're up 2-1. What do you think? you probably would have still thought Arsenal
Man,
would win.
the Liverpool game is not the turning point for me. The West Ham game was the turning point for me because
But you got my point.
how many teams genuinely go to Anfield and
that's the excuse I gave you. I actually gave you that game.
So, if you said to me, if you asked me before the game, well, in fact, you can ask me what, like I said, if I would take a point at Anfield today, right now. The fact that we were 2-0 up is difficult, but when you are, regardless of if you're 2-0 up, even if you're 3-0 up at, for whatever reason at Anfield, well, in fact, Brighton weren't they 3-0 up at Anfield, and they got pegged back. And I know Brighton and Arsenal were two different teams, and I know Brighton also beat us at the weekend, but Liverpool are a different beast at Anfield. I would argue, out of all the teams at home, Liverpool are the best at home. Better than any other team. So the fact, whether Arsenal were top of the league or not, whether we're playing well or not, the fact that they pegged us back is a testament to Liverpool, not a detriment to Arsenal, in my personal opinion. The West Ham game, that is unforgivable. That game pivoted on the Saka's missed penalty. The Southampton game, that had remnants of the Bournemouth game, where we were overly complacent in the first couple of moments and we didn't allow ourselves to, we shouldn't have to be allowing ourselves to grow into the game. We are Arsenal Football Club and we are at home. We should be dealing with things and managing our stuff as any top club should be, and we didn't. And we allowed ourselves to get drawn into crap in that game.
Yeah.
Nobody's entitled.
Let Frank go on, Fran.
Thank you.
You've got to be more bullish. Just go in. Just jump in.
I know. I'm too polite. But no, for me, the reason is that we're getting all the bottle thing, and I agree with you. I've forgotten your name, bottom right.
Gav, mate.
Gav. Sorry.
Gav,
for me, there's no shame in coming second, but it's the way in which we've done it, as you were kind of saying, Gav. So Liverpool never got this kind of heat, when they're just a couple of points behind City, because they took them all the way. Whereas it's the folding at West Ham, at Southampton, the manner in which we've come second, which is why Arsenal is receiving so much heat. There's no shame in coming second. It's fantastic. But I think we would have just come out looking a lot better had we pushed them all the way to the final day. But yeah, I don't want to take up your whole show, Savva, with Arsenal talk.
No, listen, you're all right. It's interesting. Just quickly, but I want to go for another 5 minutes. I just want to. Okay, 5 more minutes. I just want to know where everyone stands on looking at the Premier League table at the moment, and Liverpool. So we were talking about Liverpool at home just now. Liverpool have come from absolutely nowhere with a 9-game unbeaten run, 7 wins in a row. And they're now, if I make it right, they're now 1 point behind Newcastle and Man United.
Mm-hmm.
Is it inconceivable that Liverpool could pip one of those to the Champions League, because they are on fire. They are on absolute fire. And would anyone put it past them getting 6 from their last 2 games?
No.
Not away at Southampton, and not at, I think they've got Villa at home.
They got Villa next. If Villa doesn't take any points off them next week, they're finishing with 6.
Don't you guys have a game in hand though, or 2?
Us and Newcastle, yeah. So we have a game on hand. Us and Newcastle have a game on hand on Liverpool. And you would argue that we have the easiest run with an extra game in hand, whereas Newcastle actually has tougher games. They have to play Brighton next, then Chelsea. Sorry, then Leicester. Then Chelsea.
Liverpool have got Villa at home on the 20th, which is the weekend. And then the weekend after, they're away at Southampton. I can't imagine a scenario where Liverpool don't beat Aston Villa at home, because Liverpool at home are a force. And I can't imagine a scenario where if they need 3 points to get Champions League, they're going to slip up at relegated Southampton. I'm not saying Newcastle and Man United haven't got winnable games, but for me, this will be one of the best comebacks in not in terms of winning the league, but in terms of a top 4 race. Liverpool were 12 points behind Spurs 2 months ago. Let that sink in. Right?
That's 7 wins in a row.
Right, and now we can't catch them. Right, so
the only good thing for Newcastle is that the two of their 3 games are at home. Like the
Yeah.
Brighton game, like I genuinely believe that St James's Park is going to be absolutely bouncing on Thursday.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel that Newcastle will get all 3 points at against Brighton, which is a shame because I'm worried that Brighton may even miss out on European football, and they deserve it this season because De Zerbi, Palermo legend. Just throw that one out there.
Yeah.
Do you think Spurs? You think they're going to miss out? Do you think Spurs can catch them? We're 1 point behind them. They've got 2 games in hand.
Why?
And we're playing Leeds away on the last day. Now, I'm not saying Leeds are good, but if Leeds United need to win to stay up on the last day, who do you want to play? You want Tottenham, right?
All the Forest fans are worried about about Tottenham going to Ellen Road the last day of the season, because Ellen Road, let me tell you, I went there early in the season, and it is a proper fierce, nasty piece of work. That stadium it is. We were all sat there, coming out of Chelsea on Saturday, and he's saying, "Who don't you want Leeds to have to face?" And we said, "Oh God, Tottenham Hotspur," because they're so soft. Right?
If there's one team that would do that, it is Spurs. Yeah,
of course it's Spurs.
I think the 2 softest teams in the league at the moment are Chelsea and Tottenham. I think they're on the subject of Liverpool. What I really like about Liverpool is that you say, Sav, that Liverpool are on fire, but I'm not. They've got results-wise, yes, but I don't think Liverpool have actually got to their best form. Now I go back to our trip to Anfield. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. We lost 3-2. Now we were expected. I was going there. We all thought we'd get battered at Anfield, right? Little Nottingham Forest. We'd lost 11 we'd lost 10 on the bounce at the time, or we hadn't won for 10. Sorry. We went to Anfield, and we hit the bar at 3-2, and we had some other chances. We could have astonishingly nicked a point at Anfield, right? And what I love about Liverpool at the moment is, and the games in hand for United and Newcastle are crucial. But what I like about it, I love teams that aren't playing at their absolute best and are putting results on the board. You know what I mean? I mean, so I think Liverpool, it is not inconceivable that they could catch either Newcastle or Manchester United. I also agree with Gav's point about Brighton. I think Brighton are wonderful. I think Brighton have got the best ownership. To me, pound for pound, they're the best run club in the country, Brighton and Hove Albion. They're absolutely fantastic. I love them. Brentford aren't far behind. Those are the clubs that we at Nottingham Forest, or I at Nottingham Forest, aspire to get in that middle section.
Let me rephrase this then. Just from a Man United point of view, if Man United finish outside the top 4 and Liverpool get it,
yes, it's a bottle job.
How? No, I'm not going to.
I was getting ready for that.
I don't use that word. Right?
You know what? I thought he's going to use that against me. So I'm like, no. See, at least now you know I'm very consistent with my takes. So give me respect for that.
If Man United drop out of that, how much heat is going to be on Ten Hag? Because they've been in that top 4 all year. Listen, I'm not saying it is going to be Man United, but I'm looking at Man U's games, right? I'm looking at Man U's games, right? Bournemouth away won't be easy. It won't. Bournemouth have shown that they're not an easy team.
I think it will, though. Just because they lost 2 on the bounce, they're on the beach, really. That's the one advantage we have. Everyone we're playing is on the beach.
Man United v Chelsea.
Man United have only ever done the double over Chelsea once in the Premier League era.
Yeah, but
this Chelsea, Gav, is really weak. We could have won it. We came out of Stamford Bridge at the weekend with a 2-2 draw. And the measure of how Forest did on the day is that our manager and we as supporters, we were conflicted. If you'd have said a point at Stamford Bridge beforehand for a newly promoted team in a struggle, yeah, we'll take that. But as we came away, we kind of thought, you know what? How lesser than we imagined were Chelsea, and we could have got something. And I think United beat Chelsea comfortably. I think United will find it harder at Bournemouth than Chelsea. They'll beat Chelsea hollow. United.
The day I think that Ten Hag,
I think Chelsea will win that game.
Listen, I'll tell you something, because if for anyone who watches me on several channels, they know how ill I speak about Lampard, how I think he is the worst manager I've ever seen in the Premier League.
He is.
The day I come on a channel and say that Ten Hag is losing 3 points to Lampard is the day I'm retiring from this YouTube. I will
Staffy,
never ever.
I'm going to call it now.
Yeah,
I'm going to call it now. I'm calling it now.
Keep that receipt.
I think Chelsea, who will have nothing to play for, which could be, I don't know. Listen, I don't know.
The players have something to play for. The
I
players
don't
have
know.
something to play for. The players
Poch
now
will be announced by then.
Exactly. The players then have to say, "Oi, I want to play for Chelsea next season."
These guys got paid. They're okay. They're 1 foot on the beach already.
They want to play for Chelsea next
season.
They
They're
want
going
to
to
be in
Ibiza
Poch's
and
plans.
Cancun. They don't care about going to Old Trafford. That's
They
probably
didn't show it against
easiest.
Forest.
They
didn't show that against Forest.
They're 2 games unbeaten. I think you're doing them a disjustice. They're
against Savva, against Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest.
See how Savva words a lot of things different than me, and it could tell you a completely different story. I could say they only have 1 win in the last I don't know what, and he said, "Well, they're 2 games undefeated."
Just facts. I'm just stating facts. You know, they haven't won for 1. There's another stat. Look, guys, we could go over this all day. I just think for in terms of from where Liverpool have come from, I think Klopp has shown the same way Pep did when City were doing what City normally do. I think Klopp has shown what a good manager he is to take them from, oh my God, will they even get Europe, to hang on, we could get in there. Go on, Fran.
Yeah. There was a press conference he did when they were in the doldrums, Liverpool, and the way he spoke about how he was going to fix this was so clever. He just said, you'd have to go back and watch it, but it was kind of like, we're looking really bad at the moment. I'm going to take them to training. I'm going to do this, this, and this. We're going to work on this basic skill. We're stripping it right back. And he just outlined all these really simple things that he was going to do. And, you know, and he's done it through hard work. It's not just luck that suddenly they're in form again. Klopp has very deliberately seen what the problems are and trained the players out of it. And, you know, he's credit to him. Fantastic.
And they're not conceding goals, Fran. They're not conceding goals at all. Like, since the last 3 games have been 1-0, 1-0, 3-0. And for a team that weren't looking good defensively, and that's why I think, you know, football fans, we're very knee-jerk. You know, throughout the season, everyone's been like, oh my God, Chelsea and Liverpool are dead. They're finished now. Liverpool will be back next year with a couple of signings. Chelsea under Poch with all those young players, and Kunku's come in, a striker, a new goalkeeper. Poch will have them as a very difficult team to beat. And I think sometimes this is what I was saying earlier. Football's about the 38 games, right? And we all make these outlandish predictions after like 20 games. And I'll tell you just quickly before we go, one of the things I would say is, who remembers that season when Blackpool came up? Right, into the Premier League, and Blackpool were brilliant for about 10 games. I think they were.
Beat Liverpool, Anfield.
Charlie Adam. They were top 4, and everyone starts doing that thing they normally do, going, "Oh my God, could a team could they do it?" And you're like, "No, this is form versus." So, look, I do want to quickly read out a couple of super chats. Love Music, I think, is saying, is it me or is the standard being distinctly average? I don't think he's talking about STDs being distinctly average.
The worst word he would have abbreviated is that
one. Loves Music. I don't know about the standard of STDs anymore. I used to work in Greece.
I didn't get
that's
that.
all I'm going to say.
I'm glad to say I did not get that STD, so I've come out of it clean. So that's
and Wolves Finland, how are you, my friend? Is saying, what's going on? Savva can't handle the Arsenal bottle job. Agree, Staffy, 100%. Listen, Wolves Finland, the one thing that you'll always get from me, as Gav said, is I'm not one of those fans who I don't care who someone else supports. I'll always try and keep the conversation on a football level rather than backwards and forwards. Otherwise, we end up, like Staffy said, like, you know, like a gal when they're going, oh, we're 9 points clear, we're winning the league, and then you look
I love a gal.
I love a gal.
He's my boy, so I'm not saying anything about it.
No, hang on. No, I love a gal, but he was one of the Arsenal group of fans that were like, yeah, we're winning the league, and you're like, right, just calm down a little bit. Anyway, Fran, thank you so much making your debut. Really good input, so thank you very much for coming on. Really enjoyed it.
Fran, I've followed you on Twitter. I've also shared your page and tagged in a couple of some relatively decent Arsenal names. Like I just assumed that Galazzo was just your name of your channel or something. I didn't realise the talent that you actually possessed. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, that's my main thing. So if I have a terrible football take, I just say like, "But look at my art." That's what
Ignore that. Look at the T-shirt.
Yeah.
Fran, you know what? The beauty of never having a bad football opinion is you don't need a backup. So I'm just saying, like, just you know what? Dave, Mr. Nottingham Forest.
You, Gav.
Can I just say,
you can say
Forest
anything.
play Arsenal on Saturday at tea time, and all I would say about my lovely little club is that for 23 years we were a backwater that nobody took notice of. On Saturday tea time, thousands of Manchester City fans are going to be behind us. The whole world will be watching, and Arsenal are going to beat us because there's nothing like a heavy home defeat to focus individual and collective minds. We are going to go to Crystal Palace on the last day needing something at Selhurst Park because Arsenal, I think, will beat us at the weekend. It will be tight because the City ground is hostile. Arsenal's recent record there isn't great.
It's awful. We lost in the FA Cup against you guys.
But Arteta, I think, will have really rallied the troops after that loss to Brighton, and he'll say, let's go and lay that City ground bogey. So I think our season, and I'm not getting it. If I came on it, I think Nottingham Forest will win because I like them. I'm sick of that in football, right?
Yeah,
so I don't do chest. If somebody said to me, right, Forest against Arsenal win because they're a better side than Forest. They've got more quality, right? And somebody said to me, are you staying up? A bloke in a charity shop this week, he saw me hat, my Forest hat. Are you staying up, mate? I said, I'm not going to tell you. Why not? Because if I say that we are going to stay up and then we don't, I'm going to look like a burr, can't I? You know what I mean? So the way I look at it, and I agree with Savva, right? This business is just like, yeah, we're going to win the league because with this many points. Ask me, talk to me after the 28th of May at 6:30. That is when we'll all know. So I love this show. I'm sorry I've disagreed with a few, and I'm sorry if I've been rude or talked across anybody. But
no, don't be silly.
You're never rude.
Absolutely brilliant. And Fran, I'm really interested in your band as much as your artwork, Doc. I mean, I hope you're playing death metal or post punk or whatever. You know what I mean? That'd be great.
A little bit of Oasis, Blur, Pulp, some of that.
Top draw, Doc. Chuck some blast beats into some dub.
On that note, we'll get Fran back on to pitch her next gig. But Staffy, listen, thanks for coming on, man. I always love a good debate with you. It's always good fun.
Of course. And for everyone in the chat who agreed with me, listen, I'm the hero you guys needed. You know, you needed a guy all the way from America to come educate a little bit of these Brits over here that don't know what a bottle job is. But thank God I'm here. So I'll be here every week to make sure Savva knows to know what's up. But thank you for having me, man. And for everyone, man. Just follow me over here. My handle's right here. You can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram. So thank you for the love.
No, always, mate, always. And last but not least, Gav, sorry that it wasn't your darts game. I know how much you love your darts, but thanks for coming on, bro.
No, I appreciate you having me, man. Really do. And if anyone wants to know any more about Bundesliga football, come find me.
Yeah.
Perfect. Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, just Mad Sports Network under that, or that's me and Devo. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I've been
Mac
out the loop recently.
Yeah, Mac and Devo. That's what MAD stands for.
And it just leads me to say, listen, first of all, thank you very much to King Charles for his sponsorship. Thank you so much to 10-inch Alan Sibley. Thanks to Loves Music. Thanks to Wolves F1. Please, everybody else, smash the like on your way out. And please subscribe. I think 5 people have subscribed while we've been watching the show. So thank you very much. Please continue to. And on that note, I will give us a little video to play us on our way out for the last 10 seconds. Goodbye.
And here comes Hurst. He's got some fiddler on the pitch. They think it's all over. It is now. It's 4